Okay. Hi, I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. We're with Gino Skyping again. He is far, far away.
Yep.
The board had its weekly meeting this past Wednesday, and we talked about preliminary review of town meeting warrant articles for the 2016 annual town meeting. There's shaping up to be a pretty good sized warrant so far. It's very early on. They will talk about warrant articles again at their next meeting on November 18th.
Anything stand out, Libby?
Well, we talked about the possibility of a nuisance bylaw, which we don't have right now. We talked about a couple of home rule petitions.
What's a nuisance bylaw?
The nuisance bylaw would be a way in which the town could maybe more effectively enforce what might be considered nuisance properties, properties that have lots of stuff on them that isn't really actively being used, cars, boats, ladders, storage containers, stuff that might be considered a nuisance in terms of maybe appearance, maybe rodents. Rodents could be dealt with now, really, but sometimes people get very bothered by, I don't want to use the word junk, but stuff on people's properties. And we've had a lot of, not a lot, but maybe an increasing level of.
Isn't it one man's junk is another man's treasure?
Exactly.
How do we really? That's a tough one.
How do you judge if it's a nuisance or not? So that's going to, we haven't decided to go ahead with it yet. There needs to be more discussion about it. So that remains to be developed.
Right.
There's been a proposal from the Agricultural Commission for what's called a right to farm bylaw, which basically in the bottom line comes down to mean that you can farm and you can have farm sort of animals anywhere as a right, and your neighbors can't really do anything about it, basically. So say somebody decides to have a chicken farm or a pig farm or something like that right next door to you. You won't have much in the way of recourse, the way it's currently written, to deal with it. There would certainly be a process to attempt to mitigate the situation or correct it in some way, but it wouldn't be removed.
You mean
so?
This
I think there are
downtown. I mean, even in anywhere.
Anywhere. We could have a chicken farm here at the town building if we wanted.
If somebody wanted to do it, they could. Yeah.
It again, that's going to be discussed more. The board has not. The board heard a little bit of tiny bit about it on Wednesday night, and we'll have more discussion as we move forward. And they decide whether or not the board wants to sponsor it or whether or not they'll let the Agricultural Commission just do a citizen article. I'm sure that'll be some discussion. We talked about some zoning, some real estate, some home rule petitions. The board also finalized a letter to the state about the 106 Surfside proposed 40B application. We're in a 30-day comment period for town comments on that application, and the board finalized the letter, which basically indicates to the state, we as a town do not think that site is appropriate for a 40B. There were a number of people there who I think were happy to hear about that letter. So that's gone out, or it's going out today. There were a couple minor corrections that had to be made. The board began an initial discussion about a memorandum of agreement with the Richmond Group.
Let me ask just for 1 second, I want to go back to that. When you send a letter out to the town, to the state and say, we don't think it's a good idea, what recourse does the state have on this? What does that mean? Because we have an obligation, don't we, as a town, and we haven't lived up to that obligation, so we have to put it somewhere else? Is that the way it works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about exactly putting it somewhere else, but yes, we have an obligation which we haven't met pertaining to the number of affordable housing units which are meant to be in our town based on a state formula. The state will consider the town's comments seriously, and make a determination as to whether or not it thinks the site is appropriate. And if it does, then, it does.
Oh, really?
And there still would be some amount of community input through the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is the town agency that processes a 40B application locally.
What does the planning board think of it? They think it's a good idea, right?
The planning board, I don't believe, is in favor of this particular 40B at this particular site.
I see. So
It's about the site.
So how can the state say to the planning board, you're going to do it anyway? They can't, right?
Well, it's not the planning board. It would be. Oops.
Hang on, we just lost you. Hang on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I got a little battery.
It's okay.
I might have to plug my phone in a second.
Oh.
I'm at 10%, Gino.
Oh, what?
I'm at 10%.
Oh, okay. You'll be all right.
Okay. In any event, it would be telling the town that you have to process the 40B application. There's a lot of case law on this, and there are very specific reasons that the state would consider not to approve a 40B application, and they're very limited, is my understanding.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to have to see what happens with it, I guess.
Okay. All right. How long does that take?
I'm not sure how long it takes. Probably a month or more.
Okay.
So the MOA with Richmond, that's for their property, mostly along Old South Road and back in.
Right.
The board is discussing an MOA which basically would enable the board or mandate that the board support the warrant articles 1 and 2, at the November 9th special town meeting, which are zoning articles for certain properties, in return for a number of conditions that Richmond would be legally bound to comply with. So that discussion started on Wednesday night, and it continued yesterday afternoon for 3.5 hours at the community room with the Richmond group. And to make a long story short, at the end of that session, they pretty much reached an agreement, and it will be finalized probably next Monday at a meeting we've scheduled for 2:00 before the special town meeting.
Now, those requirements that they're expected to live up to, is that what took 3.5 hours?
Yes.
Are there any highlights that you can share, or?
Well, one of them, there were a lot, and it gets a little convoluted from time to time. But for example, there's a lot of concern within the abutting properties about access through the Daffodil Mayflower area. And the board does not want there to be cut-throughs, to use a term like that. And the neighbors don't want that either. So that was an issue. It sounded like Richmond was agreeable with that. There was discussion about the number of affordable units, the number of market rate units. There was discussion about paying for the infrastructure, sewer and water, sidewalks, things like that are going to be necessary. Richmond pretty much said they'd be paying for all of that. There was talk about traffic improvements. So it sounded like it was really coming together at the end. There would also be a process with the planning board for Richmond to get a special permit, and a lot of those things would be in that yet to be heard planning board hearing on exactly what the site plan would be and all that stuff.
All right. Well, traffic improvements, though, right? I mean, what's that?
Traffic improvements are a big kind of
What
deal.
could they do, though? Widen the road?
Well, we talked. There was a bit of talk about, I don't think we know exactly, but there's been talk about a roundabout at Fairgrounds in Old South. Maybe, this didn't really come up yesterday, but I've heard before, maybe a turning lane somewhere along Old South.
Yeah.
There's some different options.
Okay.
No board meeting on the 11th, Veterans Day. There is a Veterans memorial service on the 11th at 10:30 at the Veterans Memorial next to the town building. Our next meeting is November 18th, and right now we'll have a county meeting which will relate primarily to the Hummock Pond Road bike path extension or the Milk Street bike path extension, depending on how you look at it, for the design and some discussion about taking of some easements which are going to be necessary to get the project done. The Atlas Barbecue and Fish House is coming in for an amendment to its entertainment license for vocal and instrumental music, karaoke, a DJ, dancing floor,
Ooh.
trunk shows, things like that. That'll be interesting.
What are they currently at? Like, what is their?
Right now, they just have radio music and maybe a TV, very limited.
Yeah.
They want to branch out, it sounds like.
And have some bands and some dance.
Make it
more
sounds
of a tight spot, maybe.
It seems like that, yeah.
Okay. All right.
First quarter budget reports for the current fiscal year from the general fund and the enterprise funds is on the agenda. And our focus right at the moment is the special town meeting on Monday the 9th, 6 o'clock, high school auditorium. There are 7 articles. 3 of them require a quorum of between 3 and 5%, so it's important that we get that to vote on them. Earlier this week, we had a forum about the island home. And really, it's centered around where it should go. And that decision has not been written in stone at this point. There were some people at the forum who really want to see it stay where it is. We, the town, feels there are a number of reasons why it feasibly can't stay where it is, but also to improve resident care going forward. You know, the standards of care have really evolved over the past, I don't know, a couple of decades maybe, and a continuum of care is kind of more the model that the the country, the industry is moving towards, where you would have maybe a skilled nursing facility, assisted living, and senior housing all in one area, which the Sherburne Commons site really lends itself to that. There being a couple of those things there already. So the improvement of elder care is another driving issue here. We're going to be looking in the coming weeks and months at different models of operation for our island home, but the point of the forum was to talk about the location. And I'm not sure how people left the forum feeling, yes, it can definitely stay there, or no, it can't, but the architect, I think, pretty well explained what the hurdles are to keeping it where it is. One of them being, maybe a major one being, you cannot at that site build a new facility and keep the current facility in operation. It's not possible. It would be much too disruptive to the residents. The residents really would have to move elsewhere.
Okay, why couldn't you just, why couldn't a portion of our island home stay there, where, let's say it was you could say a hybrid, where maybe I don't know who would go there. It could be the final stages of a person's life, if that were the case, and they could finish their life in this environment that was just incredible. I mean, I'm just saying, could that possibly happen? And that way you could keep both. And I mean, is that?
Well, almost anything is possible.
Right.
Whether or not it's economically feasible is a
Right.
different matter. And regardless, the current residents or whoever's in there at the time that this project would begin have to move for a period of time.
Yeah,
They can't stay there.
Right.
So there's going to be more discussion about this. At town meeting, Article 4 seeks $1 million in design and other costs related to a new facility. And we really hope that people will vote yes on that article. Otherwise, we aren't going to be able to move forward with that type of planning, and we'll be back to a standstill again, which isn't good for anybody. So hopefully people will vote yes on that.
All right, so that's a big one for Monday.
Yeah, it's also, I just would remind people that we already voted $1 million for this at town meeting at the annual in April. However, that vote was flawed because the motion wasn't properly written inadvertently. It was a technical error, really. And so this is kind of a revote of what we already did. But now people have paid more attention to what we're really talking about. I mean, we're down to, we need to take action. Not if we need to take action about the island home. We do.
Right.
So anyway, that's an item. And what else? We did a special e-newsletter as well about the special town meeting. It's on the website.
Uh-oh.
If you're a subscriber to the newsletter, you would have received it by now.
Okay.
Did you say uh-oh?
Yeah, I did, because we just had a break in the Skype, but that's okay. You're back.
Okay. That I think is about what's going on right now. It's just busy.
Yeah, you are slammed over there, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me, though.
What?
How was Halloween?
Oh, Halloween was great. It was beautiful weather. People were happy. I haven't gone downtown in a while, and I didn't go this year, but everybody who goes downtown says it's great. And the times I've been down with my kids for Halloween, it's so fun.
It is.
You know, everybody's just in a good mood, and they're
That's true.
happy. And
Yeah.
it's great. It's really fun.
Yeah.
We went to Miscellaneous, which is Halloween Central, I would say, and that's an experience.
Yeah?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you get dressed up or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
My children say I'm already dressed up every day as
Town
something.
manager.
I won't say what. Something mean.